So our last speaker is Bill Barnett. I had to write this part down, so it's a bigger mouthful for me. So Bill is the professor of business leadership, strategy, and organization, joint between the GSB and the Doerr School. He's also the director of multiple programs. So he's the director of the Stanford Initiative on Business and Environmental Sustainability, and also the faculty director on the Stanford Executive Program. Bill's research looks at what makes organizations thrive or fail, and he's really done a tremendous amount of work on what makes organizations successful in transition. Maybe something we should think about, huh? And so with that, I'll turn it over to Bill and let him tell us about his work.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Scott. Well, it's an honor to be here. So I came to Stanford in 1991 to study the growth and change of organizations. I don't know what you were doing in 1991, but that's what I was doing. And if you came to Stanford in 1991 to study the growth and change of organizations, you were in the right place at the right time. There's been a lot of that. In fact, most of my studies have models of organizational failure in them as well, because that's the most common outcome of attempts to change. And in my youth, I ran basically econometric models, statistical models, and looked at big data sets, and then started going into companies, and as one does, if you work in a business school. And well, it's been a long road, and I'm wondering why I'm standing here among you. So that's you're probably wondering that too. So I'm normally not caught at a loss of words. So let me just I just sort of fast forwarded through a lot of history. So I found myself running the flagship executive program at Stanford. I have relationships with the world's biggest companies. I advise people who call me and want to know how to change their organizations. I understand organizational change. The business school's motto is change lives, change organizations, change the world. I've been working with so many of you to create this new school, and I have proposed to John Levin that we change the business school's motto to be change lives, change organizations, change the world, but don't change Stanford. I was debating whether to say that. Well, actually, it's fine. I've said worse. I think, I guess I'll say, I wasn't going to talk autobiographically at all, but maybe I'll just briefly say that over the years, my pro bono work around the university has been to help out deans and sometimes different presidents when they want to make changes. And so back when this all started, and Noah and Arun were running the design committee, so it was a long time ago now. It seems like, what was that, 4 years? I don't know. Long time ago, pre-pandemic. I was asked to come and just advise as somebody who understands organizational change. And what only I knew is that I had always wanted to work in the area of sustainability and never had. And so I was very excited by this opportunity and intimidated. And in the process of advising and working with you, I shut down my lab. I finished up my students and got them out. I closed down all of my research projects. I did what is very difficult to do. I just stopped everything. I gave up my editorships. I walked away from the companies I advise. I completely, you have to kill Bill, and that's what my students and colleagues said I was doing, killing Bill, because you can't, it's hard to change. after all these decades, right? And the only way I could do it was to just, because every day you come in and there's the momentum, right? I mean, just think of what your life is. You just keep doing it, and it doesn't stop unless you kill it. So I just killed it. The only thing I didn't kill were I run a group in the business school and so forth, so I have to take care of what's expected of me to the institution that gave me my career and that I owe so much. So just in case anybody's listening, don't worry, I'm not dropping those balls. So it was with great eagerness that I moved half of my appointment over here, and I'm totally intimidated every day by you people because I don't know anything about this area, and neither do my colleagues, even the ones who care about it. So one of the things I've been working on is setting up working groups in different parts of the world so that I can take my colleagues on study trips, and hopefully you'll come on these study trips perhaps to teach. A number of you have already spoken to about this, and then students as well, because you can't learn about sustainability in Palo Alto. You've taught me that, right? I mean, you can, but you got to get out. And so those working groups are something I'm putting together, and that's changing me in many ways too. In fact, if you haven't met her yet, Marissa Mendoza here is the staff side lead of the initiative that is putting these working groups out there. So you'll see her as time goes on. Thanks for that, Marissa. And it looks like you don't need to be timekeeper because they just held up a sign and told me to stop in 10 minutes. So, okay, so I didn't really want to get too autobiographical, but frankly, you don't know anything about me, and it's sort of like, who is this guy and why is he standing here? So there it is. There is a theoretical and empirical problem I'm working on. If you don't mind if I just talk about middle range social science for the next 10 minutes, because that's what I'm working on. So what we have learned about organizational change and growth and failure over all these years of research, if I had to sum it up, is I could do it in 2 sentences. Number one, we are very bad at predicting. And we think about it, nobody wanted to fund Google. I mean, just think about that, right? I mean, it's not an exception. Trader Joe's began selling cigarettes and ammunition. Who'd have thought, right? Don't go to Trader Joe's today to get your cigarettes and ammunition. You'll be arrested for the cigarettes. But not everybody laughs at that. And there's story after story, right? If I had more time, I could just tell more stories than you want to hear about the fact that we've learned that the bigger the organizational transformation and surprise and innovation, the less it was anticipated to begin with. Now, the second thing we've learned over all these years is that we're really good at retrospectively rationalizing all of those things that we didn't expect. And we're so good at it, we call those retrospective rationalizations strategies. Seriously, that is what a good strategy is. It's like your resume. Your resume is a retrospective rationalization of your life, right? I mean, life is a terrible, wonderful adventure. And yet you have to sum it up in a document that makes it look like you planned it when you were 12, right? I mean, think about it. And we expect that of one another. Anyway, I don't want to digress too much. And for organizations, we talk about them as if they're so I bring this up because I have a concern about research and innovation in sustainability. And it's what I'm working on right now. And that is, so we know that the biggest innovations are the ones that were least expected. They're the ones that are non-consensus innovations, the ones that we thought were crazy at the time. They're foolish. If you look at innovations, which I and others have done, and some of the people in this room have done, but if you look at them over time, selecting the good ones and the bad ones, the non-consensus innovations you could think of as high variance innovations. Right? And in fact, they tend to be low mean, high variance. So on average, they really are foolish. That's why we're not doing them. But when they aren't foolish, they're transformative. That's what you want to think of as a high variance innovation. A high mean innovation, low variance innovation, is probably a good bet. And it's probably not going to change the world, because we could conceive of it at the time it was put in place. Now, with that basic truth out there, you can see what the problem might be. The more that we target our innovative efforts at an outcome that we know we want, the less variance we have, because we're serving a well-defined solution set. Right? Targeted innovation, the record shows, tends not to be as transformative. The more you target an innovation, the less transformative it is. I brought my field notes from the Israel working group, where we went to Israel so that I could go into the Negev and look at adaptation of kibbutzes and things like that. But then we ended up running across this population of climate tech firms that's awesome, and it's going to be our working group there. Now, one of them, that's the wrong one. Oh, well, all right. So Biotic Labs, Adi Goldman's startup, very interesting. They started by talking to customers who use plastic. So this is targeted innovation to make biodegradable plastic, things that are like plastic but aren't plastic. Some of you probably work on this kind of thing. And it's interesting. It doesn't mean it's not valuable innovation, but this is the kind of innovation that leads to outcomes that are the outcomes that are being planned. Because you start with the solution set, right? You start with the thing that you're trying to create, and then you work back into the technology and ask, well, how, given what I know, can I create that solution? Compare that to Shlomi Shen, founder of Cevix. This is a company that does biomimicry of spider silk. Now look, to you people, that's of course, they're working, that is so exotic to me. You know, I'm not a scientist, so seriously, biomimicry of spider silk. It was initially, but they worked on biomimicry of spider silk, not knowing what they were going to do with the knowledge. And initially they had a use case in healthcare that didn't work out for them. There are use cases that work out with, turns out with and found themselves moving into sustainability several years after their founding, and they have a tremendous number of sustainability applications that no one would have imagined at the time they made it. You see where I'm going with this? And you might wonder, why did they do that in 2018? Well, we had, in the social science seminar, we had Tamar Zandberg in, the former Minister of the Environment in Israel, who was just thrown out of office because of the change of the election. But she explained to us when we were there that a policy was put in place to incentivize firms to take whatever they were doing and try to think about how they might pivot it into sustainability. And it's intriguing to think of this. It's not really a natural experiment. I wish they had done it randomly, but when I said that to them, they looked at me strange, like, why would we want to administer a random try? Anyway, but the point is that, so there's a lot of self-selection there, but it's intriguing to think about the prediction, which would be that there would be a higher number of other things equal, if other things are equal. There should be a higher failure rate for these organizations, but conditional on survival, they should be breakthrough organizations at a much greater rate. Now that's encouraging. If that were to happen, that would be really interesting. And let me tell you why. What we're up against here, if we're going to do targeted innovation, is that lots of organizations trying to solve problems that we know we have to solve, so that the innovations we would have that are applied to sustainability, the literature is correct, will be some of the least breakthrough innovations that we would tend to see. That we would inadvertently, by targeting our innovations at trying to solve problems, be lowering the revolutionary, like decreasing how many revolutionary, but that doesn't mean we can't design around it. Remember, our job is not to know, our job is to create the systems that discover. So what system could we put in place that would increase the rate of transformative innovation? I would suggest, now I don't know because I haven't finished the research on this, but I would suggest that a system that takes existing technology efforts and then redirects them towards sustainability will lead to many more failures and a handful of really interesting wins. So you want to drive up the failure rate and drive up the level at which the wins are profound wins. Now, by the way, compare that to what we do in business plan competitions. Right, in business plan competitions, there are lots of different ways we filter technologies around campus. We take what everybody concurs through a consensus is a good idea, and we say it's the winner. That would not be the way to find a disruptive technology. The Disrupt Conference, for example. What the Disrupt Conference does is it waits until a deviant succeeds, and that becomes the new consensus. And then they put that person up on the stage with the other billionaires and talk about it as disruption. But when that person started, they were a deviant. You don't actually see disruption happening at the Disrupt Conference. I mean, billionaires on a stage talking about disruption. That's like the czar appointing a commission to look into revolutionary thinking, right? I mean, so you have to generate foolishness to get genius. Thank you very much.